What's up guys, it's Will here, back again, and today we're here to do something very exciting, as always, and that is to talk about the Hot Toys best of the best figure lines that Hot Toys has ever created for collectors in existence. Guys, before we get started, make sure to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and click that notification bell down below so you are notified when content goes live on this channel. That said, let's build out some lines together. Alright guys, so thank you again so much for joining me for this video, and I just want to get started by saying that I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. I've been thinking about figure lines because a lot of collectors really love collecting lines. They love completing whole lines, completing whole teams, and really building this nice, unified, cohesive, really badass display. And while every collector is going to approach the process of collecting a little bit differently, there are many collectors out there who just absolutely love an IP and they want to complete the whole line. And when it's done properly, it looks amazing. And many of us collectors, myself included, can sometimes get fixated on this new, shiny, exciting thing, but we tend to forget about the things that pave the way for those new collectibles. Hot Toys has created some amazing lines, and I want to explore those today. Guys, with that said, let's jump into the first one on the list. And at number 5, I'm gonna surprise some people with this one. We have Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Rogue One is considered by most of the die-hard Star Wars fans to be the pinnacle of the Disney Star Wars era, but we all know in actuality, it's The Force Awakens. But I digress. The Hot Toys Rogue One line produced grails. While there were some figures that weren't produced that should have been, looking at you, Baze, this line absolutely delivered. The main character of Rogue One is Jyn Erso, and we actually got 2 different versions of her. We got the regular outfit Jyn Erso, and we got the Imperial disguise Jyn Erso. Both of these figures satisfied collectors, and as of today have been our only iterations of a beloved Star Wars character. Both head sculpts did soften a tad from the prototypes, but they're still quite good. And we got to see Jyn Erso in a cool one-off Imperial costume, which really does pop on a shelf. So from a main character perspective, they nailed it. This was also a really good line for trooper collectors. The star of the Hot Toys show from a value perspective for the longest time was the Shore Trooper. The Shore Trooper was deemed a grail by many for its unique color scheme and a few minutes of screen time. Eventually though, Hot Toys made alternative versions that really did tank its value, but at a time it was going for crazy prices on the aftermarket. A really cool trooper nonetheless. The Death Trooper Specialist though, now that's the best trooper Hot Toys has ever done. Fight me on it. This is a sleek black look that just pops, especially with that amazing shoulder pauldron. You even get a doll with the deluxe version and a cool little rock moss base. It's an amazingly distinct trooper, and this is the best version of it. We also got the Jedha Patrol Trooper from this line and the standard Stormtrooper. Both figures became very sought after once sold out because trooper collectors are wild people and view them like Pokemon. Gotta catch them all. You know who I'm talking about out there. The Jedha Patrol version has a cool little orange pauldron, and the regular Stormtrooper looks good too, albeit a little basic for me, but great to most people. We also have some really cool supporting characters that were made. So we have Chirrut Imwe, who's Donnie Yen's character, and this is his sole appearance in the Star Wars franchise and thus his sole Hot Toy. This head sculpt is out of this world though. I actually own this figure for quite a while, and it's a beautiful piece, particularly the deluxe version with the diorama nature base. The Rogue One line also delivered a Director Krennic figure, which many collectors love. Myself, I'm not crazy about the head sculpt, but I like the figure overall. I can't leave him out though because he's very popular and sought after among Star Wars collectors, and he does have some presence for sure. And finally, we have Lord Vader, who does show up in Rogue One and destroys the rebels in a non-discriminatory way. So yeah, he needed a figure. His Rogue One figure is absolutely awesome and one of the best Vaders ever made. He's got his iconic space diaper and a really cool overall design. And at number 4 on the list, we have the Hot Toys The Mandalorian line. The Mandalorian line has produced a plethora of figures from 3 seasons of television. 2 really, as season 3 was mostly a bust from a storytelling perspective and a collectible one, but you get the idea. The Mandalorian is the bright spot of the Disney Plus Star Wars universe, especially nowadays. Sure, Andor was really good, but no figures. And we're here to talk about figures. The Mandalorian has produced a lot of great figures. It has Mandalorians, it has troopers, it has tons of little green baby Yodas, even a giant space fish. You even get a Luke Skywalker, which is really good. Let's go through some of the other highlights. And of course, the main character, the star of the show, The Mandalorian, Hot Toys has given us 3 Din Djarins. We have his original Durasteel look, we have the Season 1 Beskar look, and the Season 2 Chrome Beskar look. All of these are quality releases, but the Season 1 Beskar Mando has to be the least desirable today. At the time it was released, damn, it was a banger. But Chrome Mando changed our perspective quite quickly. Chrome Mando is the best Din Djarin you can buy right now. Its chrome paint pops on the shelf, and it actually articulates a bit better than the original Beskar Mando. The figure still comes with a Grogu, albeit without the iconic Pram, but the other included accessories are enough to make it truly worthwhile. The Durasteel Mando is actually super slept on. It's been released twice now. The original release was announced before the show even aired, and then eventually Hot Toys decided to drop a 2-pack with Mando and Blurg. I'm not sure a ton of collectors made space for the giant space fish, but it was a cool offering nonetheless. And if we're looking at troopers for the Mandalorian, you got another Death Trooper, but it isn't quite as cool as the Rogue One version, but it is a solid choice. You get the Mustard Trooper, the Dark Trooper, the Scout Trooper, the Transport Trooper, and more. You could also probably count the Praetorian Guard, although the design isn't quite as cool as the Last Jedi one. The trooper offerings were pretty steady in quality from what I've seen, so if you are a trooper guy, there's definitely some very solid offerings here. Hot Toys also produced a lot of really cool supporting characters from The Mandalorian. You have Bo-Katan, Casca, Axe, the new Moff Gideon, IG-11, Quill, Heavy Mando, and arguably the best Luke Skywalker Hot Toys figure ever released. It comes with a battle-damaged Dark Trooper statue, a great head sculpt, and of course it represents an iconic moment. Mando has some banger figures. We even got a couple Boba Fetts in there, including Bird Poop Boba, which is a very unique look for the character. The Mando line is pretty dope. And in number 3, we have the one that Hot Toys just can't let go, and that's the Dark Knight. The Dark Knight line is in fact the one that Hot Toys just can't let go. There have been many different iterations of its iconic characters produced, and they remain bangers for the era in which they were released. I'm going to cheat and count all 3 Dark Knight films as one line, so just a heads up there before you comment that. That said, let's start with the best character from the films, and that's Heath Ledger's Joker. The very first DX figure was actually Heath Ledger's Joker, and for the longest time it was a grail. That is until Hot Toys produced the DX11, the next DX Heath Ledger Joker figure. Then after that we got the Artisan Joker, and then the sculpted hair Joker DX32. Hell, there's even a quarter scale Joker that disappointed most people despite it having a kind of cool half painted non-screen accurate head sculpt. And there's also even a bank robber Joker, which many collectors were joyed to see. Still no Nurse Joker though, unfortunately, but Joker's still pretty well represented at Hot Toys. Next up is the Batman himself. Christian Bale's Batman is also very well represented by Hot Toys. He's been released 5 times by Hot Toys in 1/6 scale and 3 times by Hot Toys in 1/4 scale. There's also a Batman with armory from The Dark Knight Rises in 1/6 scale currently on pre-order right now. Most people will point to the DX19 Batman as the best Hot Toys has to offer in 1/6 scale so far, until the Armory version releases anyway, and the recent release of the Batman Begins 1/6 Hot Toys figure. Now that one left a lot of collectors disappointed due to the glaring inaccuracies, including like the low quality cowl and the cape and even the paint apps. And also none of the head sculpts included with the Batman figures are particularly great by Hot Toys, but the Batman figures themselves are mostly solid overall. There's also a Bruce Wayne Armory with Alfred from The Dark Knight, and that was actually deemed a grail for quite some time by collectors. Let's talk about the second best villain in the Dark Knight series, and that's obviously Bane. Bane has been produced twice by Hot Toys, and the new version currently on pre-order is an absolute banger. The custom body is exceptional, and the head sculpt is stunningly good. The original Bane was a great figure for its time, but the body was a bit skinny and it had visible joints. Ew, right? But now, the new Hot Toys Bane is an absolute grail. The new custom seamless body, the scar, the head sculpt, all of it is goated. We also had other supporting characters like John Blake, aka Discount Robin, Commissioner Gordon, and multiple versions of Selena Kyle Catwoman. While the most recent Catwoman wasn't perfect, it's decent with the mask on. This line just has a lot of iconic representation, and the figures are mostly pretty damn good. Gotta give it to Hot Toys here. And in number 2, we have Star Wars A New Hope. Just a heads up, I'm counting A New Hope as its own line because if I counted the Star Wars original trilogy as its own complete line, we'd be here all day. There's just too many figures to include that as one line. So A New Hope is its own line. Regardless of the reason, the A New Hope line is an absolute banger. Recently, a Return of the Jedi Han Solo was announced, but I still favor that original release, the A New Hope version. This Han was released individually, and he was also sold as a set with A New Hope Chewbacca back in the day. Han was also released in his Stormtrooper disguise, which since has become quite the desirable grail among collectors. But as far as Han Solo is concerned, I'd really love to see a 2.0 of the A New Hope Han with updated paint apps for the sculpt and of course seamless wrists. As far as Chewbacca is concerned, there have only been 2 Chewbaccas produced by Hot Toys and there's only one good one. The Force Awakens came out like Rescue Dog Chewbacca and the A New Hope version came out like Grail Chewbacca. It's likely we have another version sometime in the near future, but only time will tell. For now, the A New Hope version has a fur body and looks great once you style him a bit. It's another Grail from this line. As far as Leia is concerned, I would argue that most collectors will probably say the A New Hope Bun Leia is probably the definitive version. I'm more of a Bespin man myself, but A New Hope is certainly in the running. This is definitely an iconic look for Leia that has remained culturally significant for years to come. And if you can only have one Leia, this is it for most people. Great head sculpt, great figure. Let's talk about Luke Skywalker because he got a couple figures from this line. We got Farm Boy Luke, and we got Stormtrooper Disguise Luke. Neither head sculpt is brilliant, but they're solid. They'll likely be remade at some point because they're so iconic. I mean, this is the original Luke Skywalker we're talking about, the look that started it all for Star Wars. This is family bonfire Luke Skywalker. Stormtrooper Disguise Luke is also just a super unique look for the character and has obviously become an aftermarket grail for that reason. This thing is going for the price of a J&D Power Pose figure. Let's not also forget that we have the Vader Tarkin 2-pack here. This 2-pack has become the Star Wars collector's wet dream because they have yet to reissue it. And it seems fairly unlikely at this point. Tarkin has been crowned as one of Hot Toys' greatest achievements by collectors, and the A New Hope Vader fixed some issues with the single pack version with the gloves and hands. It's just a win all around. But let's not also forget that the definitive Obi-Wan was actually from A New Hope. This is going to get the comments busy, but I think if you could only have one Obi-Wan, it's the Alec Guinness version. This is mostly because the Ewan McGregor version out right now is a bit disappointing. Let's see how the new one comes out from the Kenobi show though. The Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, that thing is great, but I want to see this new Obi-Wan. And as far as troopers go, you got some iconic OG troopers, a Death Star gunner, you even got a Jawa and a giant ass dewback. The A New Hope line is truly the epitome of diversity. This line will go down in history as one of Hot Toys' best. And finally, at number 1, we have, of course, Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame was the highest grossing film of all time. For a little bit. Now it's second behind only Avatar. More importantly though, Endgame is the culmination of 10 years of Marvel excellence. The golden age of Marvel, it ended for most people when Thanos and his army were turned to dust. Some would even say that the hype for Marvel Hot Toys died when the Endgame line concluded. This shows how impactful this line was. Let's run through some of the highlights. Firstly, the perceived definitive Iron Man, that's going to vary by collector. But the definitive Iron Man to me is the Mark 85 battle damage. This is the most iconic moment for Iron Man in the MCU. The moment when he makes the sacrifice play and does what's necessary to win the ultimate war. From a figure perspective, this figure has the best Tony Stark head sculpt to date, awesome battle damage on the armor, and you can even display it helmeted if you want, and that looks badass too. There's also a clean Mark 85 figure, which is also great. All of the Endgame figures were overproduced, but the quality of the figures, that can't be denied. Captain America actually got 3 figures from the Endgame line. There's a limited edition stealth suit cap that most collectors couldn't get because the Sideshow website crashed, causing massive outrage and panic, but the regular Endgame cap suit figure still is the best Hot Toys has done so far. The head sculpt still isn't quite perfect, but the helmet on version is pretty dope. With updated proportions, the interchangeable faceplates, hell, even interchangeable shields, this thing is super cool. He has a hammer. I mean, what more could you ask for? The other 2012 cap is also really cool because it mostly allows OG Avengers collectors to display a newer, better looking figure lineup. Pretty cool if you ask me. I'm gonna be real though, the Thor figure is probably the worst Thor figure so far. It's not that it wasn't a cool angle for the character, considering he's suffering from PTSD and it's important character development, but the representation is far from iconic. The film is iconic, but there are several Thor figures that would be more appealing on your shelf. Still, it's a solid option if you want to round out that Endgame line, just don't expect to articulate Lebowski all that much. As far as villains go, we got 2 different versions of Thanos. Both are pretty good, but I prefer the original armored version over the battle damage version. The battle damage version is many collectors' preferred version, but I didn't love the paint apps or the base. The regular armored version looks clean AF on the shelf with some subtle weathering. I still think Infinity War is goated, but Endgame's clean version is pretty dope, and the battle damage will make a lot of collectors happy too, despite me finding it disappointing. Maybe I'm just a little bitch. Let's not also forget some of those very important support supporting characters. We got a Black Widow that is kind of disappointing, a Hawkeye you can turn into a ninja as long as you don't break the zipper, and you got the best Loki figure ever, King Loki. Loki's hairline is a bit of an issue, but just put the helmet on that thing to cover it up. Us bald men know all about this. We wear hats all the time. There's also a really cool rocket where the joints aren't visible, a big war machine that screams Team America, Rescue that went for the same as coveted Marvel Legends, and even Iron Strange, which was made from all the leftover Mark 50s. There's even a cool new Captain Marvel with a sleek new haircut. Some called her Captain Karen, but honestly, this probably is the best Captain Marvel figure to date, whatever that means to you. I almost forgot, but we also got a Smart Hulk figure that everyone hates. This isn't really Hot Toys' fault, but more so Marvel's fault. Most collectors long for the days of OG Avengers Hulk or Age of Ultron when he was actually a green rage monster. This figure truly isn't a bad one at all, but it's just not the definitive look by any stretch. We also got an Artisan figure from this line. Artisan Wanda looks really nice so far, and we're all collectively holding our breath, hoping Hot Toys delivers. There is a sculpted version for the more conservative among us, which also looks great. We also got a couple life-size props, which is pretty cool. Captain Marvel's beeper from the olden days. I remember those days, wild times. We also got a couple life-size nano gauntlets, a Hulk version, and of course a regular person version, both of which didn't sell too well, but we can't deny that they look good. Endgame is just a really deep line, but it's got a lot of definitive versions. All right, guys, so there you have it. There's Hot Toys' 5 best figure lines of all time. Make sure to comment below. Let me know what figure lines you think are the best from Hot Toys in 2024. Of course, a lot of these lines are still developing. There's 2.0s, 3.0s, reissues, just new figures being added to these lines all the time. So this list could be ever evolving. And of course, if you'd like to see me do updates to this type of video, let me know. And of course, I can make other ones in the future. Let me know if you are a line collector, as many collectors tend to be. Do you like collecting one complete line, having one complete display? Do you like having the Infinity War, the Endgame line, the New Hope line, the Dark Knight, whatever it may be? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, guys, if you like this type of content, make sure to drop me a like, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and of course, click the notification bell so you're notified when content actually goes live. You can be the first to see it. You can comment and like and all that good stuff. I appreciate you as always. Guys, thank you so much for the support as always. I really appreciate it. You guys have been amazing to me, and I cannot say enough good things about how supportive you all have been to me. And yeah, I'm pretty excited. My Darth Vader's coming soon. There's a lot of other exciting figures coming to me that I'm looking forward to. So look out for reviews in the near future. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will catch you in the next video. Peace out. See you later. Bye. Bye.